While most people were watching America and China battle for global dominance, Canada quietly launched a trillion-dollar plan that could reshape the future of energy, AI, and international trade. And according to Prime Minister Mark Carney, this is only the beginning.
Capabilities across AI, financial payments, space, critical minerals, as I said, and clean energy. And we are making progress because Canada has much of what the world needs, wants from energy, the key aspects of aerospace, cyber, AI, and quantum.
Speaking in New York, Carney revealed a strategy that goes far beyond politics. His message was simple. Canada wants to become one of the most important suppliers of energy, critical minerals, and AI infrastructure in the world. Why does this matter? Because AI isn't powered by software. It's powered by electricity. And the world's biggest tech companies need massive amounts of energy.
Reputation as a reliable, predictable partner has rarely been more valuable in a world where transactions are replacing relationships. We're blessed with many commodities in Canada, but we have earned the most valuable one, which is trust. Which brings me to the second element of that lesson, which is being true to ourselves. True to our values of taking care of each other and meeting our responsibilities to our allies. Canadians take care of each other with a relentless focus on affordability, by providing universal childcare, healthcare, education, by building, as we are now, affordable housing at scale. And we're now doing our share abroad. For the first time since the fall of the Berlin Wall, we are meeting our NATO targets. As well, we have already embedded in our fiscal framework, in other words, we provided in our budget, a path to 4% of spending of GDP in total defense by the end of this decade, en route to the 5% NATO schedule in 2035. We've launched in recent months our first defense industrial strategy that alone will catalyze $500 billion of investment in Canada in the next decade, building on our strengths in aerospace, shipbuilding, AI, cyber, and again, quantum. We are leading NATO's multinational brigade on the front lines, and they are the front lines now, in Latvia. We are one of the largest, not the largest, per capita contributor as part of the coalition of Willing for Ukraine, standing up for freedom, for democracy, territorial integrity, human rights against criminal Russian aggression. Let me say that the outcome of this war is not in doubt. The only question is the scale of the senseless human suffering that will be inflicted before Russia and its enablers accept the inevitable. We're stepping up to protect Arctic sovereignty through intensified cooperation with the Nordic countries, with Germany, the United Kingdom, and working within NATO to make Arctic security the priority it needs to be.
Canada controls some of the world's most important resources: lithium, nickel, uranium, copper, the same materials needed for batteries, electric vehicles, military systems, and artificial intelligence.
To back that up, we've moved quickly in the past year to build new military operating hubs, to commission over-the-horizon radar. We're going to buy new submarines, while adding to the world's largest fleet of icebreakers. We're also in the process of creating a new multilateral institution, the Defense, Security and Resilience Bank, to provide long-term, low-cost financing for defense and resilient projects across NATO allies. And being true to our values also means continuing to invest in global public goods, in climate finance and development finance, even as others are sharply pulling back. And it means helping to broker an enormous potential trade pact between the EU and the CPTPP, a bridge that would expand the footprint of rules-based trade. We're just getting started, but the early results are encouraging.
Carney isn't just talking about exporting resources. He's talking about turning Canada into a strategic partner for countries around the world.
I thought we'd start with a global economy question. What you spoke about, diversification, autonomy, resilience, sovereignty, these are all, of course, not just geopolitically and macroeconomically challenging, but they're also structurally capital intensive. which the energy and AI build-out that you just spoke about is only sharpening. This global economic rewiring driving higher for longer inflation is a trend that you were tracking long before most as a central banker, and it has only intensified since. Bending the path of monetary policy and redefining the economic playing field for every major economy, not just the US.
That statement immediately grabbed attention, because instead of framing Canada as a competitor, Carney framed Canada as America's strongest economic ally.
So my question, to start us off, is when you think about this new era of strategic autonomy, how you're driving that change for Canada, and how many other countries are also beginning to follow your lead, is this a fundamentally higher inflation, higher growth equilibrium, what you called a while ago growthflation, or do you see a path to managing this inflation picture in part by fixing some of the imbalances in the global economy that are also going to be on the agenda of the G7 meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks?
Okay, well, brings me back to, yes, the good old days of central banking again. The short answer is yes, in terms of the overall trends. I think you've described it well, and let me expand a bit, which is that there are structural inflationary pressures that come, and I've spoken about this in the past, around the time that I gave the speech here, actually, I think, about the process of deglobalization, some forms of fragmentation. I mean, one of the benefits of globalization, there are many challenges, but one of the benefits was it was structurally disinflationary. And the reverse is also proving to be true, the fragmentation that comes with that. In many cases, for good reason. There's being more resilient. You're paying an insurance premium to become more resilient, but that has to be ultimately paid and is passed through. So there's a structural element to that in and of itself, just in terms of the changing of the level of integration. Okay, first point. Second point, part of your question, but very much of the reality that this room, this city, this country is living, is just the scale of the infrastructure build out that is only just beginning across, I'll call it the intelligence stack, but it's everything from power to the data centers, to the chips, to the and beyond, that comes and affects virtually every enterprise, and it's only just starting. And the scale and the speed of that build, which on one hand is tremendously exciting and promising, on another hand just causes big shortages. You think about if you're in the energy business, 5 years to get a gas turbine is one example of that. Land, power, those elements are front and center. So that is adding, I think, to inflationary pressure.
But there's another reason investors are paying attention. As tensions rise between major powers, countries are searching for stable partners. And Canada may be one of the few nations that can offer energy, minerals, technology, and political stability at the same time. Carney also made it clear that Canada wants a larger role on the world stage. From NATO commitments to Ukraine support, the country is investing heavily in defense and security. The real question isn't whether Canada can grow. The question is whether the rest of the world is ready for a stronger Canada. Because if this trillion-dollar strategy succeeds, Canada's role in the global economy may look very different by the end of this decade. If you found this interesting, subscribe and tell us in the comments. Can Canada really become the next energy superpower?